think I might have it. Just hold on. I don't want to hear the sound coming from that. You're not in frame. I might play with this a little bit more. So. I guess we'll figure it out. I'll be all corny either. You're so cheesy. But no, I'll be corny. You are so.
Well married. So your ring.
No.
Before we got on, he said, I had to grab my ring. People would think that there's trouble in paradise.
Right. It's been a while, right? I know the rumors start.
It was so funny. I gotta run.
Let me see. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. All right. YouTube, I think that audience is a little slower. So
yeah.
What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm gonna go into
double duty tonight. We're doing YouTube and Instagram
topics.
Huh?
You need that phone up.
Say hi to your audience.
I say hi. We're trying to get look. It's a ghetto operation.
Forgot how to do this.
It's a ghetto operation. We're trying to get set up still. You know. What's up, everybody? Oh my God, there's people joining. Yo, cocktail. Cheers.
I want all the decor behind you.
We're gonna talk decor.
We worked hard for this.
We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into all of it. I think I'm at the. I need the topics here.
Let's see, Adam. Mark. Hey Lillian. She said she saw me at Starbucks today. I was just telling Curt that story. It's Mark, not Adam.
I know, right? Who is Adam? Was he with Adam? Yeah, who's Adam?
Wait, who's gonna be like?
I don't.
You were with Adam? Who's
right.
Adam?
Let me go to the. Let me go.
I'm just teasing.
All right, we got good people on.
No problem, Lily. It was nice meeting you today. Nice meeting you. It is funny still to me that that people recognize us out in public. Isn't it still crazy to you?
No.
Well, look at your shirt. Show the people your shirt.
Well,
stand up. Well, first we got to show them all the weight loss.
It's gonna be reversed. Look, it's gonna be reversed. Can they read it though?
Yeah.
Can they read
it? If you are shocked by what I said,
it's in reverse.
You haven't.
I got YouTube over here, so
you haven't paid attention to why.
Y'all already know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Cheers.
Oh, we got somebody on YouTube too.
YouTube.
What's up, YouTube? Double duty tonight. How's everybody doing?
I gotta check in with my good people.
Our regulars here. We got new people.
Yeah, we got regulars. We got new people. Where y'all from?
Know what y'all got yourself into?
Put in the comments. Let me know if you're new. If you're new to Cocktails with Curt, put new. So I want to get a good sense of who's here.
Yeah, we're gonna just kind of catch up. It's been a while since we did one of these, but somebody asked what you're sipping on.
Ciroc watermelon and a little bit of ocean spray.
Another person saw me in Starbucks today. Jeez. I guess they know where to find me.
You might need to find a new
spot.
Don't
tell anybody what Starbucks is.
You might need to find a new spot.
So we start, though, by... I think you look a lot different from the last time you were on Cocktails with Curt.
Yo, I'm not a fat boy anymore. You
were never a fat boy.
No, I was fat.
You weren't fat.
Look, I kept saying I had COVID weight like 2 years later, so I was a fat boy. No, I lost 30 pounds since June. All health and diet, no Ozempic. Before y'all even start, asking, no Ozempic. But
actually, just
try. Well,
he sabotaged me, but he's
no, true story. I had a health scare at the top of the summer, so
emergency room and everything.
Got rushed to the emergency room. Spent the pretty much the entire summer back and forth with the cardiologist. So you play with your heart. You kind of have to slow down. And I think that I just was not taking care of myself.
No.
At the end of the day, I think it came down to I was not taking care of myself. I was out here trying to get every deal, trying to make every person get into their home and sell a home and do this, that, and the third, and just not really taking a pause and a time out for me.
Right.
And
these agents, I think, are stressing you out all summer.
These
too.
Agents, we're gonna get into
some buyers.
We're gonna get into the buyers, the agents, the new agents that I don't think should really be agents. We're gonna get into kind of all that because it's been a mess. But I'm glad to be back.
So just a temperature check, guys. We're gonna get into some topics, but give us some feedback. It's kind of a crazy world that we have been in, especially I would say the last 6 months. For a lot of people, interest rates have scared a lot of people. Inflation, all kinds of questions and stuff that has come out lately. So
not to cut you off, but I'm being totally transparent. It's throwing me off because we have so many cameras kind of around us. So I'm trying to figure out am I looking into this one, this one, or this one? So if I look crazy, it's
Mandy said on YouTube you look great with your weight loss.
Thanks, Mandy. I appreciate it. So if I look crazy, don't judge me. We're trying to figure out how all these camera setups work. So
I hope I don't look fat now. Now that you lost all this weight.
No, you don't look.
I actually have lost weight too. It just hasn't been as dramatic.
You have lost weight, but you haven't been stressed out like I've been stressed out. Because I'm gonna get into what's been stressing me out. But you want to talk interest rates first? Because that might be stressing you out. But I'm gonna talk agents. Agents have been stressing me out.
Agents, some buyers too, and sellers.
Some buyers and some sellers, but woo, man, some of these agents out here, they must be COVID agents. They got their license yesterday and they're out here running a road. But let's talk interest rates first.
All right. So let's talk a little bit, guys. So one of the reasons why you guys follow us is for our advice.
You assume that, by the way.
I think so.
You assume that. You assume that. They could follow us because I'm me, and that's
that's a given.
Okay,
but how we've gotten our bread and butter all these years is really through, especially once you say especially our Instagram took off during COVID, that year 2020.
Yeah.
And when people were tuning in, we would get on here, Cocktails with Curt, and talk about how it was not ordinary. It was not normal that interest rates were 2.5%, 3.5%. And we kept stressing that. For those that did buy houses during that period, they are enjoying that equity big time right now.
Real talk, some of them are. Some of them were out here buying well above their means, and we're going to get into that too.
Yeah.
And as soon as the property taxes went up, they were not doing like they should have been doing. They were saying, hey, I need you to come sell this because now I'm in over my head. But we're going to get into that too. That's what y'all came here for. Y'all came to get into it because that's what I'm here for. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let me know what y'all drinking too. Put in the comments what y'all are drinking.
So could you let me finish?
I'm sorry.
You got too many cameras going on.
It is Cocktails with Curt, so it is still my show. He's a guest on my show. Y'all see him enough, so.
And we will have an opportunity for you guys to ask questions and stuff like that. So we'll have a time period for that too. But what are we drinking, by the way?
So I said Ciroc and cranberry.
Okay.
Something simple.
Good. I don't know.
Simple, I'm weight loss. I can't have all those syrups and all that stuff. You got to keep it simple.
Right. So the interest rates. So we were screaming from all these shows and stuff like that. Guys, these rates are abnormal. It's not going to be like this forever. And those that did obviously bought houses, 4s, 5s, 6s, and rates were 2s, 3s. So they could afford a lot more house for the money. Now, I would say we're in an environment where rates are higher than they have been, but historically, I want you to ask your parents and grandparents if they bought in the 1980s and even early 90s. A lot of times those interest rates were around 14, 16, 18%. So I want to start off by just saying that relative to where they were 2-3 years ago, they are higher. However, historically, we're not anywhere near where they've ever been in the history of the United States and in the market.
But
however, let me just
okay
add this one thing, because I know you're about to cut me off.
Yes, I am. Go ahead and finish your one thing.
Is that I want to say, because I know Curt is going to say this as well. Our message has never been, oh, you have to buy a house, or just jump in there. Our whole thing has been ready, willing, and able. And wouldn't you say that still is the case, no matter what the rates are?
That's still the case. That's still the case. The only thing I want to say is, and again, we just we give it to you straight, no chaser. Even though it's chaser in this. I haven't drank in a while, so I had to chase this. Anyway, yeah, guys. I mean, real talk. The rates are real. It affects a lot of people's affordability. We as real estate professionals, obviously, we rely on the market and obviously having ready, willing, and able buyers. But at the same time, like on the flip of that, what we've also seen is I picked up a number of listings this summer. Just from like June through where we are now. I know Hope, the first lady, she's had a number of listings, and I'm not going to say all of those listings were because people necessarily got in over their heads, but what I will say is that I want to say 4 out of the 7 that I had were listings that I picked up, and they had just gotten the house like a year and a half prior. And the reason why they needed to list it was because they were concerned that with the property tax increase, like the mortgage had gone up, and they couldn't afford that. And so I think that
they did not buy a house from us because we would have told them.
Well, no, not necessarily that, because two were clients of ours. But I think what happens is the messages, again, when we say find your affordability, that doesn't mean compare your affordability to what your friend got, what your cousin got, what your uncle got, and try to match up with that. That means really find your affordability, because a lot of what was happening was that if this person felt like they saw somebody get in the 5-bedroom, then they felt like, well, my friend got it, so I want to get it. Now, your friend might be doing okay doing the equity dance,
right? But
you might be like, oh, shoot, I should not have been out here with my friend. I should have maybe gotten a 4-bedroom a lot less, because now people are selling homes because they can't keep up with the rate of inflation.
Right.
Like the jobs are not going up with them. Like their salaries are not increasing. Right. So when these big mortgage increases happen, it throws everybody off. And so our message has always been, when you're ready, willing, and able, but think about that, guys. Like, put some thought into how much money you have saved before you go buy a house. It doesn't make sense to go buy a house if you know you don't have anything saved if something breaks.
So many times I think people worry about the wrong things, right? Yep. When it comes to starting the process. There's always the questions about credit scores, down payment help, down payment assistance, and stuff like that. But wouldn't you agree the big number that people really, really need to worry about is what their monthly payment and affordability is at that price point?
I tell people about the consultation. Like, the pre-approval is great, congratulations, but if you don't know how much you can afford a month or what your pre-approval translates to in a monthly payment, you're focused on the wrong number. Who cares if you got pre-approved for $500,000, but you're looking for a $1,500 a month payment? That's not the same.
Well, somebody just came on here and said, I regret buying a home last year, Sabrina. Sabrina, tell us a little bit about that. Why do you regret it? Because that's interesting, because interest rates were lower last year. So where did you buy, and who represented you?
Do you want to join? Does she want to join the live?
I don't know. If you feel like you could join it, Sabrina, definitely. I don't know how to do this, but I think it would be adding, right? She would add us to it.
Yeah, I mean, Sabrina, if you want to join, just kind of have a conversation. Definitely would love to have you join.
Yeah, anybody that has a story to tell. Or
now, look, let me just key this up real quick, because we did this one other time, and it went left. So it is really just if you have something that was related to that specific topic. But it's not about anything other than that specific topic. So I was just curious, because Sabrina chimed in. Why did you regret buying a home, a year later? So you can either put it into the comments, or if there's a way that we can get you to join in one of these cameras, we can. But in the meantime, I think that's a good point, though.
Yeah, I think
the payment.
Explain to people what ready, willing, and able really means, because you use that term since we started Great Homes.
Well, I feel like that's what we learned in like real estate school, right? That's when
that's another topic.
that is another. I mean, I think that a lot of times people, how can I don't want to get all philosophical, but I think sometimes people determine their own ready, willingness, and ableness based on other circumstances that are not their own.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people get caught up in what the headlines are. They get caught up in the bandwagon of what's going on. Everybody gets FOMO, right?
Right.
You know, everybody's buying a house, or everybody feels like they don't want to miss that boat. And I think, but that doesn't mean just because you have the job,
right,
just because you have the income, does not really mean that you're ready to buy a house. It doesn't mean you're ready to make that investment, right?
What we mean by that is so many times people are so focused on what does it take to get the house, they don't focus on what it takes to keep the house, maintain the house, improve the value of the house, because you don't just buy a house and automatically, if you stop, cutting the grass, you didn't fix a leaky toilet, whatever the case may be, right? That is a part of home ownership. So you have to understand that when you go in to buy a house, it's not about, even if you could get in there, whether it's, you've seen us advertise the $12,500 towards down payment. You've seen us talk about if you're a doctor or if you're a VA, no money down, right? It's great that you can quote unquote get into a house with no money down. But when you do things like that too, that means you're not putting any money into the transaction, which means that you're going to have a higher monthly payment than you would somebody that.
And actually, I'm just looking. So Sabrina chimed in. So if you guys just joined the story, we were kind of talking about, when you should buy a home, and if you can afford it, and so on and so forth. And somebody that's listening live or watching us live, Sabrina says she regrets.
Yeah.
So Sabrina bought in Powder Springs a year ago. She bought at the top end of her budget, not thinking about the small percentage of the monthly payment that
met the
principal.
I feel like I just worked to pay for the house. Right. That's a great example. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Not even that you feel that way. Sorry that you are going through that. That's not even you feel that way, because that's what I was saying a minute ago. Like a lot.
Let me ask the question to Sabrina.
Did you just try to check me on my show, by the way? Did you see this?
When I
go ahead, I'm gonna give you this.
What comes to my mind though, Sabrina, is, did you just discover us within the first couple of months, or like had you been following us prior to you buying a house? Did you go into it alone? Did you go into it with a realtor? Did you go into it?
What was your
how did you go into it? Because I think this is an example, a good example of what we're about and what we do, right?
Well, I think, and also it adds to the relatability of what other people are probably going through, right? Like somebody probably could be sitting right now thinking about, oh, I'm ready to buy a house now, but maybe it's something that, Sabrina, you would have thought differently a year ago. That would have made, maybe you could say, well, pause on this or rethink this.
Yeah.
Because everybody's experience is not the same. Yeah.
Went into Keller. I went into Keller. I went
KW.
Went into KW. I wish I went through you guys. Now, when you say you wish you went through us, let me just ask you the question. Like, before you bought the houses, are we somebody that you followed for like a couple of years prior to you purchasing? And just out of curiosity, because this is a good like learning for us too.
Yeah.
Like, what made you not go through us, or what made you hesitant to reach out, just out of curiosity?
She put in 21 offers on home before she landed this one. So I could see that. It was probably like you just frustrated. You put an offer after offer, you didn't get it. And when one finally landed, you thought, hey, this must be the one.
But I think this gives us an opportunity to talk about the things that can change your mortgage payment and how you can get overextended. Yep. So if you don't mind, could I? You're looking at some questions.
You've already taken over most of the show.
What I do good is, I think, education.
All you do is talk. Well, go ahead, continue. Go ahead and continue talking.
You gotta we just get each other. So guys, what makes up a mortgage payment? As Sabrina was talking about, principal, private mortgage insurance if you're putting less than 20% down, your interest, your homeowner's insurance, and your property taxes. So when people go for their mortgage, they think, okay, I'm trying to get a $2,400 payment. And they get to a point where they got that $2,400 payment, but they think that that $2,400 is going to be for the life of the 30 years. But what can happen, guys, is the things that are not fixed are your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes. So real estate is an appreciating asset, which means it goes up in value, especially in an area like Atlanta where millions and millions of people move here over the years and there's only a limited amount of land. So as your home goes up in value, the county or the city is appraising it for a higher value, which is going to make your property taxes go up. Now, the rule of thumb is for, I would say, the first 7 to 10 years that you make a mortgage payment, you're going to be paying more interest than you are on the principal of the home. That doesn't mean that money isn't going to pay down the principal in those first 7 years. It just means a majority upfront, front loaded, is the interest is more than the principal. So you have to understand when you're going into it that this is a long-term purchase for you. And so I think a lot of people just go into it, like I said, uneducated about what makes up the mortgage, what can change, what kind of market you're in, and what kind of representation you have. And I think that's what really matters. What was Sabrina saying when we were on there? You're supposed to monitor that.
I don't know, Chatty Cathy. You
You're
just
supposed
ran
to be
off.
watching.
I was into the conversation that you were rambling on about.
Another one says, I'm attacked. My credit score is 619. I'd like to work with you guys. Hey, but I am the attack.
What happened?
I am the attack. That he said, my credit score is 619. I would love to work with you guys.
Oh, the name.
Yeah.
I mean, attack. I was like, what do you mean? Oh, the name.
So how would you answer that question? My credit score.
I would say definitely work on the credit score, right? Because with the interest rates being at 8%, like with a fair credit score, you would just real talk, you would really struggle in this market trying to secure a home. So I would say try to get your credit score up. You're not that far off,
No,
but get it up to at least a 640. Really should be closer to a 680. But if you can get to a 640, that at least puts you in the game. I think at a 619, you're really going to struggle in this market.
yeah. Sabrina said, no, around the same time, but I was already locked in, set up with my realtor. Gotcha.
We still love you, Sabrina. It's okay.
Still love you, Sabrina. Hopefully your realtor is still staying in touch with you. When a home goes into pending status, is it guaranteed?
There's no guarantee that a home will sell until you get to the closing table.
We learned that the hard way.
We have learned that the hard way 10 times or more. So
you
no.
Talking to stories that gives you an opportunity to jump.
Yeah, I got yes. Are y'all ready for story time? Are y'all really ready for story time? And this story time is going to be called the Agent Edition. Cheers.
Cheers.
So.
I mean, there's so many stories to tell, but which one should you?
I'm gonna start back to one that happened earlier in the summer.
Okay.
So
get your drinks ready.
Get your drinks ready, and I think you may have even done like something in your story about this or whatever. But so the new trend, I know times are hard, inflation is hard, and everybody's just trying to get their bag, right? But guys, you have if you're in the market and you're shopping for a realtor or a broker to represent you, you really need to make sure that you are doing a thorough job of interviewing them, asking them questions, asking them how they are. If you're a first-time home buyer, asking them how many prior first-time home buyers have they worked with. Ask all these questions. I'm going to tell you why. So going back to, I think this is in July, actually, this is the middle of the summer in July. I'm working with this agent, right? She's a licensed Georgia salesperson. I mean, she's licensed to do real estate in Georgia. Okay. I have a listing. It's the listing in Fairburn. She wants to submit an offer. So she calls me on the phone and we talk agent to broker. And she wants to present this offer. So in her offer, she says, hey, I want to submit the offer price for this, but my buyer really needs closing costs. So I say, okay, well, my seller is willing to contribute to the closing cost, but this is the amount that we're willing to contribute. She comes back and says, oh no, my buyer absolutely, in order to do this, my buyer absolutely needs $10,000 in closing costs.
Okay. That's a red flag because needing instead of wanting
is always if you at first, that's flag number one. Mm-hmm. So you're out here representing a buyer, putting offers on homes that the buyer really can't qualify to close on, because if that buyer needs the seller to give them $10,000, that means the buyer's not qualified to buy that home.
True.
Okay?
True.
But that's flag number one. It's a tough market. The seller says, you know what? I want to unload this property. I'm willing to help that buyer out. So the seller says, I will give the buyer the $10,000 in closing costs. Are y'all following this now?
Gotcha.
Because the buyer needs the $10,000. That's what the agent said. The buyer needs that. Just please keep that context, that the agent representing the buyer said that their client needed the $10,000 in closing costs.
Okay? What happens next?
So what happens next is, well, before we get to the contract, the agent, I find out, is
what commission were you paying?
So the commission that the seller was paying was 2.5%,
which is a little bit under.
Well, no,
that's about right.
The professional fee could be anywhere from 0 to 3%, right? So the seller in this deal was offering 2.5% to the buyer's agent. So the buyer's agent comes back and says, hey, after we decided we're going to accept the offer with the $10,000 in closing costs,
the only way I'm going to do this is if
the agent calls back and says, the only way that I'm going to allow my buyer to move forward in this deal is if you pay me 3% commission instead of the 2.5%. That is what's stated in the listing agreement. And so I said, well, wait a minute, I'm confused. You knew when you submitted the offer what the commission was.
It's always
publicly stated. It's always publicly stated. And so now this agent says, well, yeah, but I need 3%. So at this point, the seller says, well, I'm not giving any more money because I've already given this buyer who needed the $10,000. I gave that to the buyer. So I'm not giving an agent any more money outside of the 2.5%. So what do y'all think the agent did? Anybody guess? What do y'all think that this agent did on behalf of their client? The agent said, well, you know what? I'll take the 3% from the $10,000 that you were going to give toward the buyer's commission that the buyer needed, right? So now the buyer is not ever a part, the buyer or the seller is never a part of a broker negotiation.
Yeah.
So now the buyer has no idea that the seller was about to give them $10,000 toward their closing costs, but because their agent who was representing them was greedy and wanted 3%,
took $2,500 away from
took $2,500 off of their $10,000 that they needed. And guess what? At the end of that, the buyer couldn't qualify for the house. The financing fell through. So 2
lessons learned on that.
So
that basically there are agents out here, if they're not getting 3%, that are not showing you guys even the houses that you want to see because they're not getting their 3%.
And can I just pause you before you say that? And the reason why, guys, because we want to give you the context. And agents, if you're on here, you know I'm keeping it a buck. So in this market where rates are high and sellers are expecting to have to give some sort of concession to a buyer, whether that's helping them buy down the rate, whether that's helping them make repairs on the house, sellers also don't want to lose money. So therefore, what they're doing is they're balancing as well. So they're saying, you know what? If I'm going to have to help a buyer with their rate, I can't give the agent 6% commission. It doesn't work that way. And so everybody's supposed to get a little bit. But what the buyer doesn't know, especially in this case, is that the agent was negotiating their own salary off of or out of their closing costs.
And she never shared that with, her buyer. So again, to refresh, Curt says an offer came through. They're both talking. My buyer needs $10,000 in order for this deal to close. Hesitantly, okay. Oh, but I'm not. Is the offer coming through? Well, unless I get 3% instead of 2.5%, then we're not going to be submitting an offer. We're not going to be submitting an offer. They're not. So the seller said, well, I only have so much I can help out here. 10,000 is the most. So I could give $7,500 towards, seller concession towards closing costs, and $2,500 to make that 3%.
And the agent said yes.
No. And she said, okay, that works.
But here's the thing. Here's why the agent must have literally gotten their license. Actually, I know this agent got their license yesterday, because why? If you know that your buyer needs $10,000 to close on a house, and you know you're pulling from the money that the buyer needs, you have to know that that buyer can't close on the house. Right. So what inevitably happened? The offer was submitted, and that agent went back to the buyer and said, hey, they did not accept your offer with $10,000 in closing costs. They countered with $7,500. The buyer doesn't know that the other $2,500 went into the agent's pocket. So now the buyer is short $2,500 from what they need to close on the house. And guess what happened right at the end of the finance contingency? The underwriter said this buyer does not have enough to close on this house. So that deal fell apart. Totally fell apart.
And the lesson number 2 on that, before we even went under contract to accept that offer, Curt, tell them about what you did. You called the lender.
So the other thing, when you have
a good listing,
broker, they always do their due diligence, and they should call the lender just to verify the strength of the borrower, to make sure there's not any red flags, have they been underwritten, and things like that. But the new thing, again, I guess because business is slower for some, the new thing is this whole overpromise and under-delivering nonsense.
Twice this happened.
So twice this happened where, I'm not going to say any lending names, but twice this happened where 2 different lending institutions said, oh, I can get this deal closed in 10 days. Another one said, I can get this closed in 21 days. Well, how come neither one could get them closed and they both bottomed out within the first 7 days? Yep. Because you couldn't find that the borrower has student loan payments that you didn't count that into the ratios.
It was child support.
Other one, you couldn't source the child support. So again, be careful with the real estate professionals that you're working with. I'm not just talking about real estate agents and brokers. I'm talking about mortgage lenders and brokers, because everybody wants to get your business, and everybody's working hard to have what they have and what they could throw at something. So just make sure that the person that you're throwing your business at is credible. They're reputable. You could check you could check their reviews, you could check their clientele, but
you really need to interview.
You've got to interview.
What we do, guys, for our process, and Curt has been instrumental in putting this process together, is we do Zoom consultations. It's an opportunity for you to interview us to interview you, to kind of see, we could tell off the bat, if you haven't gone through one of our lender referrals. And why we send you lender referrals, guys, is for examples that we just talked about. Is that there are lenders out here that are in Michigan, that are in Connecticut, that are in LA, that are not even familiar with the Georgia market. And they're people calling them up or putting into a computer, I make $50,000, $80,000, $150,000 a year. They pull their credit. Their credit is 580 or higher, which is typically a value that will get you at least in the door. But then they don't go into great detail about, verifying employment, verifying 401ks, verifying investment accounts and stuff like that. Talking to them about things that we've already talked about. Do you know that this is what your cash to close is going to be? Do you know what your monthly payment is going to be? So when we get on a Zoom consultation and then we say, thank you for sending over your pre-approval. So we see the amount is, say, $400,000, and say, are you comfortable with that? And they say, I guess. And it's like, well, do you know how much that monthly payment is? Not really, but I think I want to keep my payment around $1,800.
You're not, yeah.
That's not a $400,000.
And then from there, the conversation, and then the conversation is kind of like, it's. I don't want to say you're wasting our time, but I think it turns into more of an education versus more about shopping for a home at that point. Because if you don't know, and if you don't, it's for you to tell a lender or whoever is pre-approving you for a loan, it's for you to tell that person how much you want your monthly payment to be.
Start with that.
Regardless of what they pre-approved you for, start with, I want to purchase a home. I would like to see what I'm pre-approved for, but I would like my monthly payment to be this.
Right.
Start with that. Start with that.
But be realistic about it.
Be realistic, because look, here's the thing. It's kind of like if you go to a car dealership, right, and you go and you whatever, it's Mercedes, BMW, whatever the case is, and they run your numbers, they're gonna tell you could get into the 750. They're gonna tell you can get into that because they're gonna give you the debt to go do it. But you know what the payment on that looks like. So you know, regardless of what they tell you, right, you know for sure, like, I can't get into that because I can't afford that month to month. It's no different than a house. Do not take that big number that a lender says, congratulations, like, here's your $500,000, go shop for a house. Nah, you got to back that up to like, wait, I need my monthly payment to be this. How much house can I get for that amount? Right. And let them tell you that. And then from there, that's where you have to figure out, be honest with yourself, like, okay, for what I can get for my money, is there anything out there that I want for what I can get for my money? And if not, then maybe I need to rent. I need to save up more and I need to rent. But it's not about like just jumping out here blind. Like, you have to know your numbers. You have to know what you can afford to spend on a monthly basis. And you should not be buying a house at the highest end of what you can afford on a monthly basis, because as we just told you, like, everything goes up. If the property taxes go up that first year, which the way the values are going up, you should expect your value to go up. So if you're already buying a house, at the top end of your budget is $2,500 a month, and you're at a mortgage payment your first year of $2,450, you're not giving yourself enough room for the second year for your taxes to go up and that payment to go to $2,600. What are you going to do then? Right. And that's what folks are finding themselves doing now. A lot of the people that, not a lot, but enough people, I should say, that have purchased homes when they were able to take advantage of the rates being low, that was great. They got half the battle rate. They jumped in when the rates were 2.99, 3.5, and all of that. But what they didn't do was they still got in above their means back then. Yeah. They got in because the rate was 2.99, and they were buying houses that were basically 5,000-6,000 square feet. That now it's like, oh, now that the taxes and everything have kind of come up, they're like, oh, I can't afford this now. Yep. So you got to stay within your means, and especially with what the market is doing. Yeah, so,
and I think I am the attack who's been asking a lot of questions. Like, we've been talking.
Yeah.
He says he's been renting for 5 years and tired of it. That's a great mentality to have, guys. You're going to be a good homeowner if you set yourself up and are educated to how does that translate into being a homeowner and a borrower of a mortgage. As you know, when you rent, something breaks, it's the responsibility of the landlord or the the janitor or whatever they want to call it of the community. It's all on you once you're a homeowner. So it's not just about the actual mortgage payment. It's about, can you do everything within being a homeowner, lawn care, maintenance, repairs, to do it. Now, it should ultimately be your goal, because what are the benefits of home ownership, right? Peace of mind, security, roof over your head, building equity, tax write-offs. If you open a business, using a portion of your house as a tax write-off. There are so many benefits of it, but you have to set yourself up to be in a position to do it. Don't you think that's the biggest lesson?
Yep. Absolutely.
At this point, being over 45, I'm fine land at a tiny house, and that's it.
That would be the dream, right? But the land is costing more than what people realize too. So right. They got us there.
Renting sounds nice right after the list of things I need to do for this house. Well, renting is comfy, however, I can't deal with other tenants. Yeah. Well, I would say this, guys. Renting is not a horrible thing. Guess what? We're owners of a real estate brokerage firm, and we're telling you that. Right. Guess what? Before we were homeowners, what were we? Renters. So you have to decide for yourself
if you fit into.
If I fit in the category of a financially responsible person that wants to take on the responsibility of homeownership. Because there's various ways to do it, guys. We have clients that buy a house and a parent lives with them or a grandparent, and that helps them pay the mortgage. That's a much better situation than paying somebody rent.
Yeah.
There are people out here that are engaged or just recently got married. They're starting their life together. They're planning a family. That's a good reason to buy a house. If you're single, you make good money, you have good credit, you feel like you're going to lay down roots in a certain area or city, that's a good reason to.
I think the other thing too is that
you have to ask yourself seriously.
And I think is that part, but I also feel like we have to unsee what everybody's been so used to seeing for the last 3-4 years, right? Really so important. Yeah, we get it. Since 2020, when the rates were low and the houses were flying off the shelves, people got the big new construction homes and all the bells and whistles. And now I think what's happened is those days are definitely behind us, but people can't unsee that. Mm-hmm. So people still expect. They actually there's a false sense of entitlement. I think I would even say there's a false sense of entitlement for what buyers in 2023 think they should be getting for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Like the game has changed. Like, and I think with where affordability kind of falls in line with like all of that, it buyers are confused because they're still chasing the big new construction homes for $500,000, but with the rate, that really is more like a $300,000 home.
Exactly.
And so you have to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? If you can't afford new construction, that doesn't mean you can't afford a home. That might just mean like you may need to go the resale route, which is nothing wrong with that. But I think everybody's been so caught up in like having the shiniest thing, the newest thing, the flashiest thing, and it's time to unsee all that.
Can I give you I want to talk about Shaq in April? They were
not to give names, but yeah.
Well, who knows? Shaq in April. It could be Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, we posted it, and their friends said you guys bought a house. I saw the GreatHomesATL posted it. So,
so guys, a perfect example of this. So we had clients over the summer that have been following us for about 2 years. They had seen a lot of our clients buy when rates were 2.9, 3.25, buying 4, 5, 6 bedroom houses. And these were single people or people with just a young couple. They really didn't need 5 or 6 bedroom houses. And Atlanta has always been known, like you can get the big house. They call them the McMansions and stuff like that. Especially like in the early 2000s and stuff like that. But Atlanta has become an international city. And what an international city means is you have people from all over the country and all over the world coming here. And there is an influx of supply and demand. There's only so much rentals, there's only so much homes that people can buy. And so when Shaq and April came to us, they said, listen, Mark and Curt, we have our father that's going to be living with us, and we have a young child, and it's the two of us. So all we really need is a 3-bedroom. Hey, if there's a 4th or there's a home office, that would be great. We don't need brand new. And we went out there. We went out there into the marketplace, off of their budget, pre-approved through one of our lenders. We found basically what was a new house because it was fully gut renovated. And we know the difference between just a cosmetic remodel and an actual gut remodel. Yeah. So they actually got a beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house, no HOA on a nice big corner lot. In the back end of the house, it actually had a finished, which was actually the very first time I had ever seen that, a finished shed. Like it had a kitchen in it, it had a bathroom, and their plans were they're going to keep their father in one of the bedrooms, but eventually, the word eventually, because they're using their money to pay for their down payment and closing costs, to extend that shack to make it like and permit it for like another almost home on their property. Yep. That's a perfect example, guys. There are certain people out there that just, we have so many consultations and they want the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 house, but their price point really is $275,000, $300,000, $325,000.
People just don't want to hear that.
And you just don't want to hear that.
People don't want to accept where they are in the current market. And I'm gonna tell you one thing, like, and this is not to be shady, it's just like
answering, by the way, guys. I'm answering some of these questions with GreatHomesATL team.
It's if you stay stuck on like just that false sense of entitlement on what you think you should get, or if you're still watching the video saying, oh, that house is only worth, what it was a year ago, you're going to continue like just watching the market go by you. Like, you have to really decide if you can afford to play in it or if you can't. But I think that's kind of what it is.
Yep. Somebody asked how is the best use of their home equity? How would you use it?
This is okay. So I will just say,
learned this too.
We learned this just from ourselves, obviously, but also through clients. And I would say, leverage the home equity, but be smart about it. Don't make the mistake of having access to an extensive line of money that's supposed to be used to improve your home, and you don't use it for that. And then when you're ready to sell it, you do realize like you have to like pay that back as well. So I used it. I told
an example of like on one of
your I had a listing actually a while back. I had a listing, and it was when the market was hot, or the market was cooling off. It was starting to cool off a little bit, but when the market was hot, these particular clients, they did a home equity line of credit because they knew they could leverage more equity in the home because the value was through the roof. So they did all of that, but they didn't do a single home improvement. They took out like $100,000 plus of home equity from their home, and they
didn't use it for.
They didn't do a single thing to the house. It was like new cars, family trip, everything but the house. Yeah. Fast forward, the market is now cooling off a little bit. Yeah. So now what they want for their house is like, it's not going to be that, because now they have to sell their house not only for what it's truly worth, but they have to now make up that $100,000 of equity that they pulled out. You have to pay that back at the time of sale. Yeah. So now you want, in a slower market, you want your house to be worth $100,000 more than its value. So basically what I told them then was this. So you took all the value out of the house and did what you wanted to do with the money. And now that you've depleted the value, you want to put it on the market for the next buyer to say, okay, I'll take it even though it's not worth that. Yeah. That's not going to happen. So I got on that tangent to just say, if you have equity in your home, that's a good thing. If you could take it out and the rate is fair, and that's a good thing. But be responsible about it, and don't take advantage of, don't misappropriate the funds, if that makes sense. Don't misappropriate the funds.
The value of your house is your power, basically. Yep. Your objective is to keep paying down the principal as much as you can. In a emergency situation, you can tap into that. That's one of the advantages. We're learning that as business owners. We talk to our CPA and stuff all the time, right?
Yep.
And what are you tapping on me for?
Because you always want to name drop it.
I didn't name drop. I said our CPA.
I knew who you were about to go.
I know. I just said our CPA.
I gotta stop him.
He's always trying to
Shaq and whoever. I'm like, anyway.
How many Shaqs are there in the whole world?
The one that.
How many Aprils are there in the whole world?
There's a lot of Aprils, actually.
He's always paranoid.
There's a lot.
What was I saying? Because I was just about to make a great point.
You probably weren't, but take a sip of your cocktail. So, what questions do you guys have? Let's see. I guess I can look at this one. I'll have to look up.
The CPA. I was saying that we've learned about the power of, in the case of an emergency, the power of equity, right?
Yep.
Is it possible to own a home making $42,000 a year? What would you say? I think it's very hard.
I think it would be. Well, I think it would be very hard in the Atlanta market. Right. I don't know if you are how far out if you live in Atlanta. I think in the Atlanta market it'd be very hard.
Very hard, just to be honest with you. Really. But saying that, we always tell people in this economy, there's other ways to make money, right? We've had people that work their regular job making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, but also they work a second job. They work game nights for an organization. They work Uber or Lyft.
It's like if you want the big payment and you don't want to settle for what you can afford now, then you just have to go find a way to make more money. It's that simple.
Right.
But I will say that there are things out here for most price point, right? I'm not going to say everybody can get a house, because that will be a lie. Right. It's just a matter of, you have to realize if what you can get in the current market is not what you want, then there's your answer. Come up with a plan to save and then rent.
I think some more questions came through, but it's not coming through on my end. If you,
I didn't see anything else.
Check. Yeah. You guys have more questions, send them our way. We're looking on our other devices too, so feel free to ask.
I think I think we answered on the credit score.
Credit score. I'll get into that real quick, guys. So tiers, 580 to 620, they're gonna look at you really, really tightly. 621 to about 679 is fair. 680 to about 739, really, really good. Outstanding, anything above 740. So that's the general rule of thumb. And I'm talking about 740 is getting the 8%
creme de la creme. Exactly.
Question: do you work with clients who have NACA?
Absolutely. Just send us a DM. We're happy to help you out. What other questions you guys have?
Let's see. More questions.
I got them all.
Guys, have any other questions that you'd like to ask about buying a home, selling a home, areas, anything like that? Just let us know. This is our opportunity to kind of help you guys. And also on YouTube.
And look, the glass is getting low, so I'm only on here until this is empty. Y'all know the drill.
So get them all in now.
Get them in now.
What's your time frame to purchase after a short sale? Typically, a foreclosure bankruptcy is 2 years and 1 day after you've gone through that. But I always put the caveat, guys. If you've gone through a short sale or foreclosure, has any of your habits changed since you owned a home? If the answer is no, then keep on renting till you feel like you got there. But understand that when you go into foreclosure or a short sale, it actually stays on your credit for 7 years, 10 years for bankruptcy. Doesn't mean you won't be able to buy a home again, but you might be paying a higher interest rate. They're going to look at you a lot harder, and you have to ask yourself, do I want to go down this road again? What's the average down payment for a home? About $365,000.
So the price of the home is not relevant to your down payment. If you're an FHA borrower, you're going to put down at least 3.5%. If you're qualified for conventional, you could put down 3 to 5%, or anything above that. So the price of the home has nothing to do with the down payment. It's the loan type that you're qualified for.
And if you're a veteran,
if you're a veteran, there's no down payment.
Nurse Jazz Harris, any new builds you know of in the Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Swanee area?
Yep, but you'd have to sign up and be a client to find out.
All you gotta do is hit that begin process button, guys. This guy worked all summer to revamp our website. I hope you guys are really enjoying it. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, pretty easy to remember, GreatHomesATL.com. Our Great Homes ATL is everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and of course our website. Really encourage you guys to check that out. And we've created a begin process button, which gets you into the Great Homes ATL universe. It will ask if you're a buyer, a seller with the option or wanting to buy, investor, commercial properties. He's the expert in commercial and going to be your listing guy. I'm going to help you on the buying side.
So the other question that comes up around, someone said they have a house that they purchased during COVID, but I think it's in a new home community, so they're wrapping up. They have about $200,000 in equity. Should they sell? I want to say, I'm going to answer this question, but I think a lot of people ask this question, and I'm going to say, why would you want to sell? Because here's the thing. If you have $200,000 in equity, that is a lot of money, great. But you have to ask yourself, where do you want to go, or where are you going to go, where that $200,000 is not going to be absorbed quickly in your next down payment? Because keep in mind, the rates during COVID are not what the rates are now.
So you have to ask yourself, like, if you secured an interest rate in the 2s, 3s, 4s, what's your purpose?
Right, and selling. Because a lot of people think it's about just cashing out, and that's fine if you're cashing out and you're moving on, you're moving out of state or something like that. But if you think about it, just like financially, if you got a home during COVID where the rates were like low twos, low threes, and the prices were not as high as they are now, you really have to ask yourself, like, do you want to sell just to sell? Because the house is not going to start losing value just because you reached a current $200,000 in equity now. It might be worth $300,000, right? So it's like you have to ask yourself, why would you want to sell it? If it's for a reason like
your family's growing,
right, you need to move on from it. Then sell the house. But if it's like, hey, I want to make a lot of money, I wouldn't sell it because I know that there's more money to be made the longer I keep the house. But that's just me.
Your mother just joined.
Oh, really?
Hello, mother-in-law.
Everybody wave to my mom.
Next question. How much should I pay towards the principal to pay off the house early? Well, they say if you make an extra payment, like say in a 30-year mortgage, if you made one extra payment a year, you shave about 7 to 7.5 years off of a 30-year mortgage. So that's pretty significant. It doesn't really make sense to me if you're going to not hold on to that house for the full 22 years.
Yeah.
Most people, I would say, the extra mortgage payment, invest the money, put it in a high yield savings and a brokerage account. Yeah. And maybe that property anyways is going to turn into an investment property for you, because when you go buy the next house, maybe you rent it out and that renter is going to help pay down that principal. But the general rule of thumb is one extra payment for a 30-year mortgage shaves off about 7 to 7.
I think somebody asked the question, do we work with contractors that build container homes? No, not at the moment.
Right. We don't have those resources. Thoughts on quick move-in or spec homes? Would you buy or not buy?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. The advantage is like it's a move-in ready home that nobody else has lived in, so everything is new. The disadvantage is you didn't get to pick anything out in the home. Right. But if that's not really your hang-up, then why would you not buy a spec home?
I would say we probably sell minimum 10 to 12 homes that are spec homes for our clients every year, because in a lot of cases, guys, what a spec home is, people are probably asking, what is a spec home? So you guys know what a community is, an HOA. Most new homes in the area are going to have that. So when a builder goes in there and develops and starts building, they usually have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 floor plans to choose from. Well, they want to get them out into the marketplace. So a lot of times they have, they're mass builders. So they're ordering the framing packages, the drywall, the cabinets, all that kind of stuff in place. A lot of times what happens is the on-site agents and them, they kind of see what's hot in the market. Are the white cabinets, gray cabinets, granite, quartz, and they go ahead and build the house. What happens is they don't have a buyer yet for that house. So Mark and Curt, we're definitely, we're very aware of, you follow us a lot. So, we stumble across those all the time. So we will put them on our page. Hey guys, I just got word that a buyer's financing fell through on this brand new home. Hey guys, I just got word that this 4 or 5 bedroom is available. And that's all that happens. It's brand new. In a lot of cases, 9 times out of 10, you're actually going to get a better deal than somebody's buying on a pre-sale, because they may give you more towards your closing costs. They may give you refrigerator, washer and dryer, blinds, things like that. Next question, since you were looking at it.
No, there wasn't another question that came in.
Yeah. How do you handle client? There's like 10. How do you handle closings for clients looking to use equity from the sale of their new home?
That's a lending question. The realtor has nothing to do with the financing aspect of how the buyer is doing the deal. Right. That's something that's worked out between you, the lender, and the closing attorney.
What about PMI? PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. And you guys, you're always going to pay PMI when you take out a FHA loan. It never goes away unless you refinance.
Can I restate that, please? You're always going to pay PMI whenever you put less than 20% down.
Well, I'm about to talk about how you get rid of
it. Minus the VA.
Right. Well, I was talking about FHA. FHA, the rule is PMI never drops off. Conventional, once you reach 20% equity in the house, so say you buy the house for $300,000, and you just take the number 1 times 0.20. Once you have 20% equity between what you owe on the loan and what the house is worth, once you reach that 20% equity in the house, the private mortgage insurance drops off. And on a VA loan, there is no private mortgage insurance, which is why a lot of military utilize that VA loan. Jay Morris has a question. I purchased my home at the beginning of COVID in Peachtree City in the new Everton community. I'm familiar with that.
I answered that. We answered that already.
The neighborhood is at its final stage. You didn't answer that.
I answered that question. That was the question I asked about that I answered as far as when you have. We answer these questions.
No, my coworker was telling me a down payment. That's when he drank too much already.
Well, you're not drinking enough, and my glass is almost empty, so.
He gets frustrated when it doesn't go his way.
I get frustrated when the glass is empty and it's time to call it a night. I mean, I can't. My coworker was telling me about the down payment assistance. What's your opinion? My opinion is, if that's where you find your affordability, then that's where you find your affordability. I will say that if you have an offer that's being submitted on a property and somebody does not need down payment assistance, you have to think about it from the perspective of that seller. Then you just exit.
Sorry, guys.